evening. Welcome to the Laughter Monkey Music Show. Today I'm singer Ronnie Romero. How are you?
Hello, Sean. All good. Thank you.
Good. Thanks for being on. You have a new album out. Well, actually, it will be out. You've actually been pretty prolific because if you look at it, you had two kind of covers albums, plus Elegant Weapons, and now your
Yeah.
new album, Too Many Lies, Too Many Masters, right? Am I saying right? Yeah, Too Many Lies, Too Many
Yep.
Masters, which I
Yep.
have a
That's true.
copy of and heard it, which is freaking fantastic. So
Thank
like to me, it's like listen to that one or the new Elegant Weapons. I mean, it's just still kind of a new album. It's like got a lot going on there.
you.
Let's jump in. How are you
Yep.
finding time to do all this? So, like, you literally did you just start on your solo stuff after Elegant Weapons? I mean, because obviously there's a lot of people involved in Elegant Weapons that are in a lot of other large bands too. You know.
Yeah. Well, actually, that album it was recorded um, right after the pandemic, if I remember correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we were still like it was at the end of all this lockdown situation, all this stuff,
I've lost
and
track of time, so please forgive me if my timeline's a little off right now. Like 3 years also just don't count for me all of a sudden.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just funny how everybody's like from COVID, post or pre-COVID. It's
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
the
exactly.
yeah. So
It was
yeah. So the album it was recorded a couple of years ago already.
oh
Yeah. So we were just waiting for the right moment to release it and to go on tour a little bit after the release and that was it. And it coincidentally it was like because of I was doing the solo albums. I did two covers albums first. Because at the beginning I was not totally convinced to make a solo album.
what was the
The
feedback from
record
that? The idea from people. I'm sorry, as I asked that, I want to just jump in. The feedback from the fans were they like, this is what we want. We want more. We want original. We like the idea of you solo. I mean,
is a
yeah,
mix of different things. The record label they were chasing me for the last few years to try to make a solo record, and I was not too much into the idea, right? Really, you know. I was playing with Michael Schenker. We were doing albums with Michael Schenker. We were writing music together,
yeah,
and then I was doing Elegant Weapons and all, another couple of things, and I didn't find the right moment to to make up like a solo career. But then they came with this idea to make a covers album, and that was a fun idea for me since I love many bands and to make covers.
right.
So it was like, okay, I will do this, and it was so good that the people they really loved it, and we needed to make a second volume of the covers album right away.
Yeah,
And then considering that the people were like happy that I'm doing something by myself with my name on it,
hmm
I felt like okay, this is the right moment to do something by
yeah.
myself.
It makes sense because I think one of the great things about this, and people that aren't aware, you have to go back. I'm hoping there's new people that are hearing you today that aren't aware. First, like you've been in a bunch of other bands, you sang in a bunch of performances, and people should go out and seek you out, Ferryman, and just like so many great projects. Obviously with Richard Blackmore and Michael Schenker you mentioned. But what's great is even on these solo albums, you didn't just do a cover, a copy rendition. You kind of put your own feel into the songs, into these covers, and you also went deep on the covers. You didn't just do everyday popular covers either, which kind of was fun as a fan. For me, I'm like, oh my
Yeah,
god, like
yeah,
who's doing accept covers
yeah.
right now? Who's doing like Fast as a Shark? That is great. Like you don't get that.
Yeah. That was actually the main idea when I agreed to make this covers album. I was like, okay, I will do this, but I don't want to do the typical thing, and something like the people they really like expect me to sing, because I was singing with Richie Blackmore and Rainbow, so obviously the
Yeah,
people gonna think, okay, I'm gonna sing Dio and Rainbow and all this stuff. So I really wanted to surprise the people in that way, and since I have this huge catalog of influences, because I grew up listening to music. My
yeah.
father, rest in peace, he was a huge fan of all those classic American rock bands like Kansas, Boston, and all that stuff. Um, I thought, okay, I will go in that way. So it's gonna be like it's gonna be a covers album at the end, but at least it's gonna be a little bit more fresh to listen.
It's amazing. Because you're like in your early 40s, and it's amazing the legends that you've already played with. it's crazy to think about. You ever like
Yeah.
realize that? Like I mean, you have a voice, you deliver, you do the goods. You wouldn't be with these musicians if you couldn't do your job. You know what I'm saying? So you got a
Yeah.
great voice. And I think what's great with the covers albums, and I was going backwards into it because I had heard you from the other bands. I hadn't heard the cover albums because I don't do a lot of covers. But doing this, I went back and listened to it after listening to the album, and it's really unbelievable the amount of range that you can. I don't. There's really nothing you can't do. I mean, this really these handful of albums kind of show that you can pretty much do everything. And
Yeah.
and it leads us up to now. I think talk. I want to talk about the album itself. It's so heavy. I was not expecting it to be so heavy from you. Like it's a good, not just a rock. It's got like a metal feel to it. It's just heavy, like old Sabbathy heavy. Like it's not even sound like Sabbath, but you know what I mean. It just feels heavy. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
and considering you submit those cover pop, not really pop, but you know what I'm saying, songs, and then you get this album. I'm like, man, but it's good. I want the fans to check. I think it's 15th, 25th. I might have the dates wrong. I don't even know. 15th. Okay, it's good. People have to check it out. I mean, this is it's a heavy, heavy, heavy album. Um, Songwriting. Were you doing songwriting before? Your own original music before, or is this the first time you kind of sat with other people and did it?
No, actually, no. And this is one of the most exciting things for me because, everybody was like, they were not aware that I can write music. And everybody was saying, it's just singing other people's songs. And it was like, that's not true because with my band, Lords of Black, for example, in the first two albums, I did at least 3-4 songs. And then with Michael Schenker, even we did a couple of albums together, and I was always writing music with him. So and actually, one of the albums we wrote together, there is just one song, uh, and they took the song as a single, and it was so successful that it brings Michael back on the charts in Germany.
That's
That
awesome.
didn't happen in the last 20 years. You
You,
know?
you know what I want to say to that is what's confusing is, and it's a hard time for you. And I have a stupid knowledge of music. I pay attention to things like who writes songs and everything. But like you're in a lot of bands, so it's for me. And it's like when you go to Spotify and things like the songs aren't right, the albums aren't right. Not just Spotify, iTunes, anywhere, because all online now. You really have to go
Yeah.
deep and to know who wrote what and who's getting credit for what like that. It's hard unless you're known as being like this is your album. So or you're really got to be put out there as known as a singer songwriter nowadays to
Yeah.
really get credit for it because honestly,
Yeah.
you're in a bunch of bands. I didn't even know every band, all the music of every band you were in. You know what I'm saying?
Not even me. Just kidding.
So to me, first it's awesome as a musician to do that because I'm going back. I'm really excited because I'll be like, all right, when I've heard all this album, I can go back to another band he's in. So that's great.
Yeah.
But for normal people that consume music, that's more music than most people consume.
Yep.
So to learn this is really going to be your keystone. This has got to be a liberating as a songwriter because you knocked it out of the park. I mean, there's no doubt who's writing good songs and how powerful it is in this album. There's no questions after this. This is just your ground zero
Yeah.
where
Yeah, as I told you, I was feeling a little bit underrated in that way because the people was like, I was just singing other people's song, and I was like, I mean, I'm a very respectful musician also when I work with other people, and I try to not to step in too much on the songwriting process when I know that there is a strong, already recognized personality on that musician.
you
For
sang with Richie
example,
Blackmore and Michael Schenker. You're not just a singer. Just singers don't sing with
I
them.
mean,
You got it going on.
when we did the last album with Michael last year, they sent me 10 songs to write the lyrics and the vocal lines, and I talked to the producer and I say, I'm up to do a couple of songs, but I don't think that I should do every song because it's not gonna sound like Michael Schenker,
Yeah.
because I'm coming from a different background. So I try to respect that, and that's why normally the people, they don't see me on the songwriting process too much, but I always try to put my inputs
Yeah.
on the recording, all
Because
the
you never
stuff.
know. Because sometimes someone will have a verse or something, and for fairness, they'll
Yeah.
give credit to this. You don't know. You figure, well, if it's Michael Schenker record, or whoever it is, it's really their decision and everything, and it's really just crafting that. But to write your own thing and be in charge of your own project, that's really your songwriting. You're not crafting to
Yeah.
somebody else. You're not throwing something in. It's your name on the door like a business. You know.
Yeah, yeah, and that's why I'm so happy with this because when the people ask me, so how is it gonna be? So how is it gonna sound? Is Ronnie Romero? You know, it's exactly that.
When I heard, and I obviously a fan of rock and metal. I mean, so you have popped up on a lot of things I've heard. I've always dug you, and then of course, and all the other stuff you did, and Michael and everything. But to me, like when you did Elegant Weapons, I was like, all right, now I'm feeling it. Now he's coming out. Now something's happening, because that was an original project. You were with other established peers. It wasn't like you were like a hired high end performer with that they needed to do the job. You were up to the point where you were with peers now.
That,
It was to
that
me,
was
you're
probably,
like the
yeah,
peers.
probably the main thing that attracted me from Elegant Weapons, because when Richie calls me to talk about this, and the album was recorded already, I think, with a different singer, and
Mm-hmm.
I think it didn't work, and then they were looking for somebody else, and uh and then I listened to the songs, and since it was totally out of my comfort zone, because it's not a typical project that I normally
No.
involve. It's not just a typical heavy metal or hard rock thing. It has a lot of different elements.
No.
So
Yeah.
I say, gonna try, and I can be myself, and put my input on the performance, and it works really well, because, as you say, you can listen what I can do in different
Was
dynamics.
it more metal? Because like when I heard it, and I was like, oh, this is excellent. I didn't put it on right away. I wanted to wait until I could sit down and listen to the whole thing, because it was one of those albums. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be good. Like, you know what I mean? And when I heard it, I was actually thinking it was gonna be like a little bit more metal, not metal, but I was expecting to be like probably different. And when I heard it, I was like, there's a lot of other elements in this one. And I was pleasantly
Absolutely.
surprised I didn't just put it on in passing and half listen to it, because I've been like, what is this? Like I put time aside to listen to the music. And I was like,
Yeah,
oh, oh,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah,
It was a pleasant
yeah.
surprise. And I think I like that. Did you change it a little bit when you came in because it was all the variations, or was it just wasn't working and Richie knew it wasn't working and wanted somebody that could add all the different flavors
Now the
to it?
the greatest thing with that album is they send me the songs, and Andy Sneap, the producer, and also Richie, they told me, okay, you go to the studio, you do your stuff, and then I was sending the tracks back for every day, a couple of songs or 3 songs, and there was no zero corrections. There was nothing like the producer told me, you need to go to the studio again and do something else, or change this or change that. Probably there were a couple of things just because of my accent, so it's not
Mm-hmm.
that British like they love.
Your XIK?
but besides that, there was no corrections at all. So it was so smooth, and it was so easy to work on the songs, and I could put my own personality on them. So it was great.
Speaking of the US, anybody's accent sounds cool to me. Just so you know that right now. Nobody in our
I
country
can see,
has an accent. Anybody from any other country has an accent. I'm like, that sounds so much cooler. But
yeah. Well,
but
consider that when I met the first time in 2015, Richie Blackmore, I didn't talk English at all. So that first meeting was so awkward, because
oh, I bet it
he was
was, huh?
talking, and I was trying to understand what he was saying, and then I didn't talk English, but nothing. There was zero English at the time, so I
Wow.
just learned.
And you said something once a while back. It's funny now. You had met somebody and they hadn't seen you. So actually, since you started singing it, Richie. So and here's the thing: you had super short hair and you weren't really speaking much English. Now, and it hasn't that
Yeah,
big a time frame if you think about it. You've got crazy rock and roll hair. Your English is excellent. Like it's really, you know what I mean? Like so when people see you, it's like a different person, and
Thank-
you're like, you know
thank-
what I mean? And you mentioned that somebody didn't catch you at first, like because you look so different and you were interacting
yeah,
differently,
yeah,
and that's pretty
yeah,
funny.
absolutely, absolutely.
Now, writing and singing in English challenge.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes, but I learned English in the best way possible. It was just listening and talking with everybody. You know, I didn't take any lessons or teachers or anything. I went there on tour with all the crew, and I was talking with everybody all the time. Probably it was very, very awkward for them, because I was there all the time asking and talking, even with the monitor guy, with the
Yeah.
sound guy. It was just standing there listening and talking, so I can learn very fast. So that's probably when, as you mentioned before, it was funny because you mentioned about that I can sing mostly everything and in
Yeah.
different styles, singers and all this stuff. And I was talking about this with Richie like 4 or 5 years ago. And I say probably my real talent is not to be a great singer, but I can impersonate anything
like a
that.
mimic, yeah.
So
A rock and roll parrot. No, because you embellish it, and I mean embellish in a good way. You put your own flavor into it. It's you. And I think hearing you on guest parts on the albums, I'd catch it, but once you started doing more solid things, it was very easy to see the pattern of who you were. Like you are your own singer, with who you're singing. And I think now I can't unhear you as this solo album singing other stuff now. I'll hear you. So to me now, it's you doing the inflections of other artists in that style. But this solo album to me feels like that's your voice. Not just the sound of your voice. That's your inner voice. That's who you are.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like your soul. I mean, and I think, and to the songwriting thing, it's interesting because like to write in English, like because obviously a lot of artists when they first start out, they don't always write in English or they translate it or they don't think in English, so they have to think about the song and then they have to retranslate it back, to think another language, to write in another language. Did you just learn everything to the point where you're just so fluent now you think in English too, or do you still have that?
Yeah, I can absolutely do that. It's for me. It's actually for me. It's very easy in that way. It's better. It's better for me and easier to write music in English and to sing in English. Because a couple of times a couple of years ago, I needed to. There was a good friend of mine, a great singer, and he was doing an album. And he talked to me and he said, "Listen, I want to make one of my songs like a Spanish version for the Spanish market. So if you can help me, like to translate and adapt the song in Spanish." And I was like, "Yeah, great." And it took me like 3 weeks just to make the song in Spanish. It was so complicated, So yeah, for me, it's in English right now. It's very easy to do it.
Well, and I say that as a compliment. I don't want to overfocus on it, but to me, it's very like I talk to a lot of bands and like different types, and one of the things that's always impressive to me is being able to sing in English, to come from another country, translate it into a great English influenced album that is good as anybody from the same country. It's fantastic because I don't see a lot of artists that I talk to, and it's not a dig. It's one language is hard enough. Like I can barely do my language, barely squeak by English. So I respect anybody that's two languages. You know what I mean? I think I took French level 1 like 3 times. No, like, but so to me, to be able to do it, I talk to a lot of people over in Europe or in Spain or South America, wherever, and they have these albums that are so great. Like it's not even their language, and they're not only just writing a good rock album, they're learning to write it in another language on top of that, which is bananas if you think about it. So to me, when I hear an album like this or I hear the other stuff, and it's like it wasn't even your native language, and here you just kind of picked it up from on tour. Not everybody does that. Not everybody can learn that. There are bands that still have a language challenge that have been doing this for 30 years. I've talked to them, and it's not natural for everybody. So it's great that you did. The album players, how did you pick out this band to put it together and the songwriting and stuff?
Basically a bunch of friends with the drummer Andy. I've been working with him for the last probably 7 years in another band, also Black, and he quit but I know Andy, and he's not only a drummer, he's a great musician. He can write music and he can play the piano and great melodies. And so for me, it was pretty clear that I wanted to work with them because he's a great musician and it's pretty smooth to work with him. Then the guitar player Jose is the same thing. We did an album together like 10 or 12 years ago, and it was pretty successful in Spain. So and he's a great guitar player. He's very versatile, so he can play different styles. And I really wanted to have him on the band. The keyboard player is the same thing. He's a friend of mine. He was the keyboard player in the first band I had in Spain back to 2009. So it's people that I trust, it's people that I know since many years, and that make writing process more fluid and more organic. So, and the other very important thing for us, it was to meet in person to write and to record the album. That it's something like sadly it doesn't happen very often in the business. Sometimes you have you need to record an album, and the guitar player is in Sweden and the other guy is in Italy, and then then just you're sending the tracks by email, and that's it, and there's no dynamic on the album. That's why I didn't want to have this like a flat sound on or songwriting songs. It's like it was like I really want to go back in time, and like the bands on the 70s and the 80s they did, and be all together, like a brainstorming the ideas and writing, and then going to the studio to record the demos and work on the demos, and go back to the studio to record the proper songs. And I think that makes the difference nowadays on the quality of the
It feels like a
records.
band, and I've noticed a bunch of bands lately, and it's been great to hear because there was a time when you hear a lot of some labels, and I'm not making a dig, but some labels get these great projects and put a bunch of artists together and they create an album or one off, whatever. And it's fantastic, but it does sound like it has an influence and it leads towards whichever artist wrote it, whatever. And it's like, what does this artist sound like with this guitar player? And it kind of quenches your thirst. This feels
Yeah.
like it's been a band for a while. This doesn't feel like it's the Ronnie Romero project. It feels like this band's been gigging, and there's been a couple bands that have done it lately, and I'm like, I'm really surprised, but pleasantly surprised to hear this. I like to feel like that's kind of what's happening now in music, and I think you're in an interesting spot because you have elegant weapons that you can do when between Richie's thing, you're doing your own solo thing, so you have something, you have more than one, fire in the in the fire, but you also, because it's your project, you have the flexibility that other band members over the years can come in and out, and it's still going to be your band. You may have a different guitar player, you may have two guitar players, someone may take a year off for maternity, but you know what I'm saying? A lot of performers now have like 20
Yeah.
people that rotate different times, and they come in, it's like a friend,
Yeah.
it's like a friend type situation almost. Oh, you're doing this tour, you're doing this one,
Yeah.
but it still will stay your name. I think that's
Yeah.
putting you in a good spot for your future.
Yeah, for me it's more important at least you have this two or three people in the band that they're always the same, because that's the personality
I
of
think
the
it's great if
band,
you can
no
always do
matter
that, but the real
the
world
name.
is
Yeah.
things change. Sometimes your favorite musician just says, I can't, I got family commitments, or someone got sick. You know what I mean? Those are the
Yeah.
things that change, and
Well,
you're the one, you're in control of your destiny though, by being your name on it.
yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but that was great also from the record label. They give me the freedom to do it, because Frontiers is the kind of record label that they put all those side projects with
Yes,
different
that's exactly what I meant. I didn't want to mention because I didn't want to see it was negative. It's not, because
great.
I listen
Did
to a
it
lot of their albums, and they're fantastic. It's just,
Yeah. I did it with the Ferryman. I did
yeah,
it with the Sandstorm and all this stuff, which is great. But this time, because it's gonna be my album, I talk to them and I say, listen, I want to do everything by myself. I want to be in charge of everything, because not because it's a bad thing, but I don't want to sound like other
right.
Frontiers releases,
Well, and that's
right?
what it sounds like. It sounds like you were just, it was an organic sound that you grew about, and it is fun, like I said, to hear the other albums by Frontiers or other labels do the mixes, because it's interesting. As a rock fan, it's fun to have your two favorite musicians, your favorite singer and your favorite guitarist make an album together. You're like, what's that going to sound like? But I'm
Yeah.
also a bigger fan of bands, so if I'm going to keep listening to something over and over again, I like a band, and it is better if the artist, if the band can grow together. If you can keep the band together,
Yeah, I
I
mean,
agree with you. It would be better for you. But
it's also part of for me is part of the process of to develop a band, to have some mistakes. I mean, there was the first time for me to be involved in the production side, on the mixing and the mastering. I didn't know, probably, I mean, only the 5% that Andy, for example,
really,
who took care of everything. So for me it was a learning process, and then probably the sound of the album overall is not the perfect sound of like at the top sound like other bands, but at least it's my personality on it. And probably the second album we're gonna do is gonna be, it's gonna sound better, but because we
I think it sounds
went through.
great. I don't want to. I didn't tell you. I don't want people to be thrown off by that. Actually, it sounds good. I don't think it sounds like you were doing your best, like it was like a school project. It
Yeah,
sounds good. You know.
it is a great sound engineer also. So the most of the things were, I was putting my, maybe this, maybe that, some listening a lot of different versions of the songs and all this stuff. But the most of the final sounds is because of Andy. But I was learning, and for me it was very fun, and something to feel very proud also, because it's 100% how I wanted to have this to happen. Like even the artwork and everything is just because I want it that way.
What is the plans now for touring and videos and
Well,
with this?
we released 2 singles already. We still
Mhm.
have to release the last single, which is going to be released together with the album on September 15th. But then there was a song. It was not planned to make a video, but the song, it turns something really cool. And I talked to the record label and say, listen, I love this song and I think it deserves to have a video clip. So we did an extra video clip, which is going to be released in a couple of months. It's a bluesy song. It's a little bit different from the rest of the songs. It's more blues oriented. But so yeah, we're gonna have 4 video clips at the end. And then for the touring, we are planning to go on tour mostly the first half of 2024 entirely. Like we're gonna start in January and we're not gonna stop until August. So
Play
so
everywhere
it's
you
gonna
can.
be Europe part of it. January, February, April is gonna be Europe. But then we are going to Central and South America. We're going to Japan. We're going to Scandinavia. We're gonna play a lot of summer festivals, and we're getting to that point that probably we're gonna end up uh, being busy the most of the year supporting the album.
So, 2 questions for that is: A, are you going to try doing it yourself and like medium-sized, smaller, like starting out venues as headlining yourself with an opening local band, or are you going to, and obviously festivals you want to get on and stuff,
Uh,
or are you going to try
how,
catching on as an opening act with a bigger band? They
yeah,
both
how
have
we started
advantages.
now? No, I mean, the thing is, I'm doing everything by myself mostly. I mean, I have the help of a couple of good friends of mine. They are booking agents, and they help me. But the most of the things I wanna have the final word on everything and how it's gonna happen. And for me, it's okay. I did big arenas and stadiums and big tours and all this stuff. And everything is cool, but I really want to go back to the basis. And then
Right, you
and
want to
that
build
in
it
that
up.
yeah, we're gonna for example, we're gonna start in January. We have 14 dates in Germany, mostly medium-sized clubs, and we have a support band from the UK who's gonna make all the tour with us. And a couple of venues, there is a couple of local bands also, but the
Mhm.
most of the tour is gonna be us and this support band from UK, and like a mid-sized venues for 500, 800 people.
I think that is usually a great long-term plan with a band because the fans are coming in early. They get to see you at growth. And it feels like you're part of. If you just come out the gate, you're just doing big things. It's almost like a weird level. Or you know what I mean? You saw them open for this band. Next thing you know, there's this level, and they never got to see you in a club. They never got
Yeah,
to see you. You know what I
I
mean?
don't want to.
Eh,
Want to go the other way around when you just release an album and you get this slot with supporting a big band and you play
right.
stadiums and everything. I don't want to do that, because if you do that and you play, I don't know, 30 shows in with the Scorpions playing just big arenas, and then you need to go back to play clubs, it's gonna be really sad. So
Well,
I
you might
wanna
not
I
have the
wanna
same
go
audience because people might be
out.
just for the Scorpions. You don't know what your audience is until you bring your own draw in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And that
So
won't always
yeah,
be there.
so yeah, I prefer to be more realistic, and I really want the people to know the band. So I'm going from the bottom and then see what happens. If the people like it, for sure it's gonna happen that somebody a bigger agent's gonna come and gonna offer something,
Right.
and that's gonna be cool. But I'm not in a hurry for that to happen, anyways. So I really want to go in the way that a band's supposed to go from the beginning, like when I was 18.
Yeah.
Like
Uh, how are you gonna do your song list? Because I mean, A, you could do the entire
that.
album, or you've got a lot of other stuff too. Or people that want to come in, do you feel like you have to end the set with a Blackmore song or an Elegance? You know what I'm saying? Do you feel like some people might want to hear one or two of the other stuff that you're known for,
Yeah,
and
I
do
mean,
the album?
because
Like, how are you gonna do that?
yeah, I'm not in the safety zone anymore. You know, I'm not just going to a place and it's not my name on it. I'm not singing my songs. It's gonna be full because it's this other person who is bringing all the
Yeah,
audience. Uh, really, it turns. I mean, it's great, but after some years, it turns something really boring. Let's say, in the good sense. It's like, yeah, but this is not. It's not what I want. It's not me. They're not coming to see me. They're coming
right.
because of this. So I really want to go in that way that, I go to clubs and if there's 300 people, 500 people, 100 people, it's going to be cool because those 100 guys, they're coming to see my band
Right.
and my music. And I think for me, that's has more value than anything else.
But once again, are you going to have to throw some other songs in? Or are you going to just do your original stuff? I mean, because like again, some bands have done it either way. Did come out and done a
Well, I mean,
mixture
for
or your
sure,
original.
we're gonna do something because it's just one album and it's like 10 songs and probably not all the songs are good to play live, so probably gonna play 8 of the 10 and then we will do some covers. Why not? I mean, I need to figure it out what to do yet, but I mean, there's gonna be Rainbow for sure. There's gonna be a couple of Rainbow songs, of course, because I played in Rainbow, and
Right.
probably the people expecting that. But also, we will try to surprise the people as we did with the covers album, and then to bring something like that they don't expect.
Which would I think would be a lot of fun. Actually, I think it'd be even more fun. I mean, I think it's hard because you want to show yourself. Obviously, you want to show respect to Rainbow because that's where you get some of your fans from. But as you grow, you want to not be stuck as being the guy who still leans. Feel like you're still leaning into it. You know what I mean? Like you're like, all right, I'm established on
Yeah,
this tour. We have 2 albums out now. I still like doing covers, but maybe something different because I don't want to be known as the Rainbow guy because I love Rainbow, but I also have a band here now. You know what I mean? It's like finding the balance between the fans
yeah,
and your own creativity. You know,
yeah.
um, I I do want to say, I want to thank you for being the show. I do want to add one thing. I always think it's weird you were saying with the videos that I noticed a trend is, I mean, because videos aren't as big as they used to be. Like when we were younger, it would be like on TV, music channels, and videos would come out. It would
Yeah.
help the length of an album because they put them out. Now a lot of videos, you get 2 or 3 album videos out before the album's out, and then nothing. And it's weird because then it almost feels like people forget about the album because there's no more videos and the album's out. Then like it already feels like it's like, well, there's a build up and there's like a week that it's big, and then
Yeah,
it's not like,
that's
oh,
it.
2 months later there's another album and you're like, oh yeah, that's right, there's an album by this artist because you're still churning it.
Yeah, that's it. That how it works right now. It's a little bit. I still don't get it, and it's really sad because I grew up on the 80s and the 90s, where as you say, you have the
Yeah,
MTV, for example. You were waiting for that video clip to come out, and then you were waiting every day because you knew at what time they were putting the video on television,
yeah,
and then
exactly.
one there was one in the morning and then one again in the evening, so you were waiting for that. And
And
nowadays it's like you show and you need to put the album out even before the release. It's like you need to put a lot of singles and the artwork cover and the track list, and so there is no surprise that when the album is released. There's no surprise at all, and that was one of the most exciting things I remember when I was a kid, a teenager,
yeah,
and I was going to the record store to buy an album. I was waiting to get back to my room, open it, and to see what is inside, and that doesn't happen anymore.
no, it doesn't. And I think it's not to sound old fashioned. I just think that was one of the special things about the buildup of the album because an album is songwriting. It's the packaging. Now it's streaming, so you can't read who did the lyrics because something is wrong or it's a similar band title, and all the different albums get mixed together in one band when it's really like 2 different bands, like on streaming. Or it's the video that goes with the album. And I mean, you can still release it on Vimeo and YouTube on your own subscriber channels for your channel or for other artists, and people and your fans can follow you that way. And I still think that would be a more exciting medium for the fans, at least. A live track here. We're on tour now. We're gonna send another video out. Hey, we're still doing the album. Check it out. Come see it. Pick it up. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I think it shows a little more that you're still out there doing it than like you just kind of shoot it out there and then it's out of sight,
Yeah.
out of mind. And that's just everyone does that. It's not just this album. It's like every album, and I see this, and I'm like, I don't get it because then there's a lot going on, and if you're not putting stuff out to remind people you're trying to promote this album you're on tour with, how's anybody even
Yeah.
gonna know? They're gonna forget.
Yeah. Well, I try to do that very. I'm pretty active on the social, especially Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah.
So obviously, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. You need to be really really active. To get the attention of the fans. But
It's exhausting. I do it
yeah,
for my show. If I didn't have to, if I could just talk to you and other people, I just like get done and put it out there, and I have to do any of the socials, I'd be happy. But to actually put the energy into the socials is the worst part. It's
yeah,
like an anchor
absolutely.
around your neck. It's the worst.
Yeah, and you ended up like a way like a thinking on, oh, I did the posting this morning. Oh, I know I need to wait until 12 p.m. because it's a better audience, it's a better rating or
Yes.
whatever it is. It's like it's a very exhausting. And sometimes since I travel a lot, sometimes there is some weekends that I just want to spend time with my wife and with my dogs, and walking, because we live in a very nice area here in Bucharest on the forest, and I don't have time for that, because I need to be posting all the time, and
I
it's
don't think you should
always
have
up
to though.
something on.
You should be able to
Sorry,
put your phone away. You should be able to put your phone away. I know a lot of
I,
artists sometimes they just vanish for a
I,
while, and I think that's brilliant. I love that.
my wife in a different area, she has the same problem because she's a doctor, and she work with kids, and most of the times all the parents they're texting
Yep.
her because something, and so we just decide on the weekends to put the phones out and then enjoy life because it's the only time we have together on the week.
I think it's important you do that. If you can't, and this is just more of a message for everybody, well, and it'll sound on a good thought. Put your phones away. If you can't enjoy yourselves, whether it's your own quiet brain, your pets, your spouse, your friends, your kids, whoever, if you can't
Yeah,
recharge yourself, you've got nothing for anybody else.
yeah,
You know,
that's true.
I want to thank you, man. It's been great. People, the
Yeah.
album comes out 15th. Too many lives, too many masters. It's heavy. It's so heavy. So take your vitamins. It's a heavy album. It's great.
It
It's
was
a good album, though. Links, as usual, are underneath the podcast, underneath YouTube, and people click on them and go check out your stuff.